No, I like the costumes. So
Very much. Very good to meet you, by the way.
Yeah, you too. My name's Godfrey.
We're just trying to spread some holiday cheer.
Yeah. So I guess I'll ask the obvious question. What is Halloween about from your perspectives?
Well, that depends if you're talking in the modern sense or if you're talking in the traditional sense. Modern sense, it's a fun time for people to embrace the macabre, the strange, the stuff that obviously all year round we can't really embrace. Unless you're individuals like us. For us, it's Halloween all year round. We love the macabre, the strange, the things that other people shy away from. It's just Halloween time. It's acceptable for us to do stuff like this. And
Halloween is a time where you can express yourself in ways that you could never in normal time.
Absolutely.
And it's a great way for people to get together and have some fun. There's all kinds of different festivities and different ways to celebrate. Kind of like Christmas. Of course, it's always fun for the kids, getting candy and sweets and getting to see different costumes, getting to dress in different costumes. Some people love making costumes. Some people,
it's a brilliant time for self-expression.
That's for sure.
And that's in the modern sense. If we're talking about the traditional sense, we're very much, we love Halloween. So we very much, we're very educated when it comes to the traditional sense. And really, Halloween is meant to be a time to kind of, if you want to be traditional, you don't go into the modern commercialised version, which is fair enough. We know people from Ireland that still celebrate in the traditional Irish way, the Celtic way, which is meant to be a time to kind of, I don't want to say celebrate, but basically just make aware that there is a mortal plane, and then in obviously their belief there is an afterlife. And during this time of the year, that's when it's closest, because which makes sense, because during this time of year, that's when leaves are dying, and then the winter comes, which kills off a lot of things. But then next year there's rebirth, which then can play into different religious beliefs, which some people do believe that there's death, and then there's rebirth on the other side, which is amazing. So it's basically, traditionally, it's deeper, it's in our roots, it's a time to kind of accept that yes, there's death, yes, there's scary things out there, but wearing a mask, going out and celebrating, we can face those things head on. We don't have to be scared in a way, like traditionally wearing masks was a way to disguise yourself so that the spirits didn't take you away. So in a sense, with the modern version, we get kids, we see adults that are scared of us in these costumes, but Halloween is a time for people to put on the boogeyman mask, if you will, and to go there and say, I'm not scared, I'm the monster now, I can be just as scared as you are, you can scare me. That's what it kind of means to us, it's kind of both at the same time. It's fun, but there is a deeper meaning to it.
Yes, this is our favourite time of year, as you can tell.
To be fair, that's actually an interesting take, because even as you were saying, there's like the modern view and there's also the traditional view as well. And there was an individual called Sahin where in the Celtic festival they would normally used to say there's that thinnest line between life and death.
Exactly, yes.
And I know there are some scholars debating between what actually occurred during that time. Some would say, they sacrificed women, children, and
the problem is that the only documentation we have there at that time is the Roman propaganda, which painted the Druids and the Celts as people that wore white robes, had golden stickers and sacrificed virgins and lambs and stuff like that, which we know from what information from those people that it's absolute rubbish. Like you have to only look across the sea to Ireland to see the Irish Celts and see that, well, yes, there's some ceremonies that are similar. We can see how those Romans came across it and might have thought, oh, that looks like witchcraft, and obviously they have the law on sale and stuff. So it is very true that what you say. But sorry, please go on. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. So, so from your perspective, what do you think happens when you die?
Personally, with me, some people would say I'm an atheist in the fact that I don't subscribe to any belief. But personally, I like to view it as more, I don't pretend to know what happens. I don't know what happens when I die. I've not seen any proof of what happens. I've not had any spiritual activities. I've never seen a ghost. I've never seen anything that 100% proves to me that I've been contacted by someone from the dead. But that doesn't make me shut off my mind. Because a lot of people, like I used to be part of a group who used to debunk ghost videos for a living.
Massive fans, both years.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you very much. But yeah, I used to be part of a group where we debunked ghost videos on like TikTok and stuff like that, and that was fun. But I did get a lot of backlash from that, people saying, oh, I'm just a non-believer, I just believe there's nothing after death. And I would cry and I say, actually no, if you actually get to know me, I'm not a spiritual person, but I believe that no one has a concrete answer to what happens. For all I know, we do get reborn, for all I know there is a paradise. I would like for there to be something. I guess the closest term is agnostic. I like the idea of it, but I don't think anyone's nailed it down. So, but the problem is then as soon as you say agnostic, people then start expecting that you think there is a concrete thing, as in you have an idea. So I guess that's why I say atheist is closer, because I just personally don't pretend that I know, that I have an idea. And I feel people that yell and commit, in my opinion, heinous acts because they believe of what happens after death. Well, I personally believe it's just an excuse. You're using your belief to try and just to do what you like. And so, yeah, I guess that's the best way to answer is I don't pretend to know what there is after death. And whatever happens, happens. If I'm reborn, good for me. If I just die and there's nothing else, then well, there's no consciousness. I'm not really going to mind, am I? All I know is that when death happens, that's the end, and so I try to live my life doing the best I can. That's my belief.
I'm the same way, but I understand that people believe these things sometimes to make themselves feel better, because sometimes you don't want to go through life believing that you're just going to fade out to black. Would you rather believe that, or would you rather believe that you're going to go to heaven, or there's something beyond greater that you can work towards in this life, and that there's another step? Especially during funerals, it's nice to believe that your loved ones are going to somewhere special or a better place. But for myself, I just don't subscribe to any of that, but I completely understand people that do, and more power to them. I'd like to believe that for my loved ones, but for myself, I just don't think there is anything.
So we're both very similar in the fact that we don't pretend to know, but we like the idea.
We like the idea, but we
haven't seen or experienced anything where we can say, oh, we absolutely know something happened. But I'm not going to sit here and say, if you told me you're a Christian, I'm not going to stand here and say you're wrong.
No one's
listen to
wrong.
your opinion as long as you then respect that I don't have the same belief. If you respect me, that's fair. The only times I get, I don't want to say hostile, but the only time I get defensive is when you get attacked, you get people saying, oh, you don't know anything, you're going to go to hell, or a bad version of the afterlife. And I feel that's not the way to go about it. That's not how you win people over to your beliefs. So that's kind of, I guess, what we believe.
That's really helpful. And like, would you say, in regards to your beliefs, has that been something that you've taken away from childhood, or has that been maybe a modern conclusion?
To go into my personal background, I was raised Christian. And it was personally going through experiences in my life where I was told and made to believe that, oh, well, if I prayed, I'd get a good result. I prayed, especially when I was going through mental health issues. I won't go into privacy, but there was a time in my life where I begged the God that I believed in for help, to give me a sign to show that there is an answer, I'm on the right path. I didn't get anything. I myself had to go to a counsellor and say, I need help. And that kind of instilled in me the idea of no one else is going to help me, especially a higher power. I've got to kind of own my own life and go out there and, so, and then other things that happened in my life just kind of turned me towards questioning it and then eventually moving away from that. Like I said, no disrespect to people that are of religion and believe in it, it's just, that's not the faith for me. But I respect people who do that, some people do amazing things with it, some people do bad things with it, but that's religion. Do you know what I mean? Everyone finds their own kind of guide through life. And that's all it is, it's a guide through life. And if the path you're on fits you and fits how you feel you should live your life, then more power to you. Do good with it. Let strengthen you, make you feel confident to go out into the world and do things. Don't let someone like me, just because I say, oh, well, I don't believe in that. Don't let that drag you down. Just keep on going, well, they don't believe what I believe. And that's the best way to be.
That's really, really helpful. And for me, so myself and my brother, so we're both Christians.
Oh, that's fair.
And the reason, why we have conversations is not necessarily, because we don't necessarily believe that we can change the hearts, or, I think everybody has their own worldview.
Yes, of course.
And it's dependent upon what lens they wear and how they interpret certain information.
Exactly.
So I think we've all been revealed certain information, but depending upon the worldview, we're more or less want to have these discussions. Because we can challenge each other respectfully.
Exactly. That's the best way to do it. Have a respectful conversation and see eye to eye.
There's no need when we have the conversation we're having right now. We're being respectful. You're listening to me, and I'm listening to you. There's no need to hold insult or to bring up bad faith arguments. That's the one thing that I always say is a no. Never bring up a bad faith argument that is just, oh, all of you are bad. Because I could easily bring up, a few people of the same belief you have done these bad things. But in my
But that's
belief,
not you.
necessarily the foundation. Yeah, that's,
exactly.
That's right.
That would be going against my own belief, which is that we're all individuals and we have the right to act on our own accord. So if someone goes out there and says, "Oh, I'm doing this for XYZ belief," don't take that as, "Oh, they represent every belief." That's one person reading scripture, looking at whatever it is, or having a life experience that's turned them to, and then they interpret that as being, "Well, this is the way then." How does everyone else believe it? So. Yeah, I very much agree that we need to be respectful and have conversations like this, or else we don't get anywhere. And we haven't gotten anywhere.
Absolutely. Definitely. And I agree with you. And so currently, so just to, so I don't want to misrepresent you as well. So as an atheist, you would you state that because you are, so atheism essentially is negating theism, meaning that there's no higher power. Agnostic essentially would say they negate. A is a negation of knowledge, basically. So would you agree that with atheism, because God doesn't exist, there would be more or less no right and wrong? So everything is more or less subjective?
No, I highly disagree with that. I feel that taking that ground from my personal perspective is to say that man has no innate morality. You know, like we can agree, that you don't like getting punched. I don't like getting punched. So maybe we should all agree in our group that you don't go around punching everyone. Can we make that a law? Yes. Okay. That's morality. That's just simply like, and I know some people say that's a super simplistic thing, but that's getting to the basic things. Obviously, the deeper the discussion you get on certain social topics that I won't mention because that's not what we're talking about. The more it's going to be a case of you need to have a conversation, kind of see what people agree and disagree on. So I just personally believe, I get what you're getting at. I would disagree, but only just by saying that I feel that anyone can find their own sense of morality. We all agree and disagree for certain things. So I feel that while religion doesn't innately bring morality, it can help bring people that say have no morality, it can give them morality.
Yes, it can help them to understand morality and right and wrong, give them a guidebook, basically. And also, from not my experience, but from my grandmother who found Jesus, she became a changed person. She was not a nice person before, but she saw that in herself. She found Jesus, and that helped her find a moral code and see what she had done in the past was wrong.
Yeah, there's tons of stories of people who have come from really bad backgrounds, have done some terrible things, but then they found a guide, whether it's Buddhism, Christianity, Catholicism, millions of different religions, different faiths, and sometimes it isn't religious, it's just a guide path of, I'm not going to do XYZ things, and they're strict to that. So I feel that ways of belief are a good way of imbuing morals in someone that hasn't had that upbringing. Like I was raised by a family that imbued in me strong morals of, you don't go around hurting people, you don't hurt people because they're weak, you look after them. So I feel that if you haven't had that upbringing, or if you need that in your upbringing, then more power to you. It is a good way of teaching morals. I just feel it's unfair to say that without religion we'd have no morals and it would all be chaos.
No, I agree with you. So the only thing is that, so like, I agree with the scenario of like nobody likes to be hurt in general, right? But like in terms of from an atheistic worldview, where would you get like the ultimate objective morality from, if that makes sense? Like where
that's what I'm saying, that like how we don't really know, there's no way of 100% saying that there is an objective, like the peak of like, oh, everyone's nice, everyone's pure. Because the thing is it is all depending on what the group believes in. You know, you could have one group of, say, Neanderthals, if we're going back to before religion, like you could have one group of Neanderthals that says, oh, we all believe that it's okay to bash people over the head with big stones and rocks because that makes us stronger, and it's okay for us to eat them, which is what some people believed back then. And then you can have another group that goes, well, no, I don't want to be eaten, I want to be buried. So then they all agreed, all right, let's bury each other and stay away from the people. So I feel like there's not really a 100% case of, oh, this is like, I guess the bar set.
Yeah, there's not one true morality. There's not one true righteous word, unless you believe that.
Which is fair.
Which is fair, but I don't think there's one true righteous morality, because there's different cultures, there's different ideas of what's okay and what's not okay. And who are we to say, you're wrong, but I'm right, etc.
And I'm with you on that. So, like, for example, I want to give you like an example. So, let's say, because of, as you were saying, there's no essentially like one objective, standing of morality. What would you say to like, maybe another atheist who also has the same foundations, but essentially would say like, I believe rape is okay, for example. So from your standing, you would. I would believe.
Well, yeah, in our culture, that's absolutely not okay.
I would heavily disagree with him and say, listen, like that's not okay. And I kind of live in the standing of if you're in the country you live, but like if you're in, say, if I'll use more basic, if you're in someone's territory, you live by their rules. So if someone in this country came up to me and said, well, I think, you know, sexual assault, rape is okay, I'd say, oh, would you like to have a word with the police about that, sir? You know, at the end of the day, you're allowed to believe what you believe, so I wouldn't, but I would very much put that warning of, listen, you can believe that, but don't act upon that belief or else here you will get in trouble. But like I said, if it's in someone else's country or someone else's culture, that's where you get into the area of like, you can't really step into that because then you're stepping on someone else's beliefs. And the problem is nowadays it's like, well, then where will the higher powers draw the line? It might be, oh, you know, you lot can't, you know, marry 30-year-olds, you can't commit sexual assault. But then how long do they say, oh, you can't wear traditional clothing, you can't celebrate tradition, and you can't celebrate, you know, your own religion? It's that thing of you need to be very careful of not going too far. So to kind of answer your question, to round up, basically if someone came up to me and said, well, I believe in this, I'd say you're free to believe that, just don't act upon it
Especially
around me.
it's illegal. So as an immigrant to this country myself, I am expected to follow the laws in this country, and I will, because I'm an immigrant here. I have to conform to your culture and your rules, and that's okay. That's good, because if I go and do things that are probably legal in my country that are illegal here, that doesn't make it right just because I'm from a country where that's legal.
Yeah. So would you say in that scenario that, like, for example, if I had to bring up the Holocaust or slavery, for example, would you say the things that they did then was right? Because during those times it was legal. So, you know, the Holocaust was legal, slavery was legal. So would you say, based upon what they've done during those times, would you say that was okay? Because it was...
I would personally have, like, you know, you get into the harder ones, which is fair enough. You gotta get to the harder stuff.
And honestly, just because something's legal doesn't mean it's right.
That's the thing, is because what we're talking about is we're talking about a difference between morality, which is saying that we can all agree on, like, you know,
and
like
law.
I said, punching people, and then there's the statute of law, which is made by, you know, the people in power. A lot of people.
The only reason why I asked that question is just because I know you mentioned that. Based upon if we had to go to a different country and if they had the belief of doing things that were against our like our belief of morality, you mentioned we shouldn't challenge them based upon.
Well, what I'm meaning is on a social level, like me and you. I feel that I have no power. I'm just one person. I can't make change, and I have to say that to an extent, I feel like like I say, it's one of those things where I feel like you can't just make an umbrella statement, because when you say that, then there's always going to be the shades of grey, if you will, amongst the black and the white.
There's a lot of nuance in the conversation of morality. Like, for example, what you said, if he goes to America, guns are legal in most states in the U.S. Just because let's say he doesn't like the guns, he can't do anything about people owning guns. That's their right.
And who am I to have the right to go into someone's home who's been nice to let me in their home because I'm a foreigner in their country, and say, oh, you should take those guns down. It's like, well, you're in our country, guns are legal here.
Yeah,
you don't
just like
that.
For example, I can't bring guns to this country or can't have one carried around.
So that's the thing, is when it comes to social morality and social laws, if you will, which are just laws we all kind of agree on socially, that I feel like, you can challenge, but I feel like an individual such as one person, two people, can't challenge what the state decrees. So like in Japan, the age of consent is like 13, 14. I don't agree with that. 13, 14 are still children in my eyes. But me going over there and kicking a fuss and going, no, you shouldn't be doing this, that's not going to solve anything. So I feel really what you should do instead is, if you feel that strongly about it, get in contact with your government, your Congress, and try and get the word out to the people that actually make the laws, and you know, and essentially nowadays create the culture, because that's what a lot of it is. A lot of laws come from culture, but then also a lot of laws enforce the culture. And if you want to see that change, then you've got to do it through more powerful means. You've got to get in contact with the government, your representatives, so on and so forth, and bring it up.
Yeah, and we're lucky enough to be in a country where you're actually allowed to do that. Some countries you can't do that. You don't have that power.
But like I said, that's saying that's kind of out of our realms. I would love to be able to right all the wrongs of the world and make it happy for everyone. But then the problem is, who am I to say that? Who am I to stand and say, oh, I know everything that's right?
Yeah.
I don't pretend to know everything is right. I'm sure I have some views that a lot of people say, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Or why are you getting rid of that? That's not okay. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And to kind of go back to that, I feel that if we're talking about, say like in England, a few years ago, like say in the turn of the century, the 1920s, cocaine was legal. It was a medicinal thing. Nowadays, it's not. Which, like I said, is fair because, in my opinion, it is a drug and it is abused. Well, but it does have medicinal purposes, of course. Yeah. But looking back there and going, well, then everyone back then who ever used cocaine should be punished. I feel that that's.
Yeah, you can't retroactively enforce laws.
I get that,
but the thing is, that's a case of use. If we're talking about crimes inflicted upon someone else, to put it simply, if someone raped someone last month, should they be punished right now?
Of course, absolutely. Yeah.
So exactly with that, if it's a case of committing a horrendous crime, such as hurting someone else, you know, the Holocaust and all that shit that happened, terrible, goes without saying. But and I do agree that people who took part in that should be tried and should get their day in court. But I feel like laws such as saluting Hitler, I don't feel every German citizen should be put in jail just because they had to salute. Because some people did disagree and they were enforced to take part in it. And that's then what the court system for, finding out who was enforced and who willingly went along with it.
Well, this is the thing, because during those times as well, you did have the soldiers who basically said, look, we were forced to do this based upon, I guess obviously the leadership.
The orders, the leadership, the government at the time.
But then, to be fair, the law at the time, actually, there were, there were certain laws in place that was higher than what the laws had in place in Germany, which obviously got them to be sentenced, because essentially, ultimately, regardless of even the beliefs they had in Germany, there was the human acts, right?
Exactly, which is, and those are the ultimate laws, those are the laws, and that's what I was trying to allude to, so thanks for giving an example, that you have the ultimate laws, which is, don't kill people, don't steal from people, and don't commit mass genocide.
So would you say, could you be wrong about everything you claim to know? Would you say you could be
easily.
wrong? Yeah,
easily. I very much go by the belief of I've been wrong in the past, I could be wrong right now. I always think and go about myself with the actions with the idea that I could be wrong, I could have the wrong viewpoint, I could have heard something at the wrong time.
Nobody has the absolute truth.
Well, this is it, because obviously from a Christian worldview, we would respectfully disagree and say there is an absolute view of how we can interpret life. I'm not saying, I'm not necessarily, I don't necessarily mean that.
We know what you mean. And do you know what? I'm thankful for that. Because I think that shows that in this day, you're allowed to believe what you are. I think that's beautiful. The fact that you yourself can stand and say, I believe in this. And I think it's beautiful that I can stand and go, do you know what? Good for you, man. I disagree, but good for you. Do good.
And this is the thing, because like, even though we stand here and we have a conversation, ultimately, we can have respectful conversation. But as well, the reason why I would say that there is an absolute, and it's because like without the belief that there is the existence of God, essentially what you would have is, from an atheistic worldview, is that if we're protoplasm on Earth, and we have as what many atheists will say within that worldview, essentially what you would have is two individuals. It's like, for example, I could be an atheist and I could say, well, I believe rape is right, or I believe, or I enjoy doing the things that maybe some others don't enjoy so much. And then what you would have is just two individuals having a conversation on a particular topic, but there's no one can really determine who's right and who's wrong, if that makes sense.
The only way I can really put an argument, then I kind of disagree with that, is I think the line is drawn on what affects you, just you yourself as an individual, such as, oh, I want to cut myself and pierce myself up. That's you. It's your body, your choice, right? But the problem is rape, murder, that affects another person that can't subscribe to that. I can't say, oh yeah, like go ahead, murder me. I don't mind, even though I don't agree with it. It's like, no. So I feel like I do agree with you that I get what you mean. I just feel that the argument to be made is that, you know, that's the boundary, I guess you could say, that we all agree to, which is as long as you stay in your little box and nothing affects me, we're kosher. But as soon as it affects my life, such as raping, murder, throwing shit on, pissing on someone, that's when it draws the line. That's right, all right, pass that in. That's not okay.
No, I agree with you. I think those convictions that you have with you are good and right, but my more or less argument would be, you know, where it comes from. So like, I know we could go over and say, you know, based upon the sociological views, but then it changes, like even, you know, during the time of Hitler's and
for most people, it comes from their culture and how they were raised.
And
so
personal experiences you had as a child, and you're developing. So if you got bullied as a child, you're going to have a strong stance against bullying. Like myself, I was bullied as a child, so I have a very strong stance against peer pressure bullying to, you know, a very big extent. But someone who wasn't might just go, oh well, it's just bullying, it's fine. You know.
No, I get where you're coming from, and the reason why I would say you
sorry,
have those...
Sorry if I sound like I'm disagreeing with you.
No.
I perfectly get where you're coming from, and I do agree with you to an extent. There is that mystery of where does this sense of morality come from? Some people, you know, I can argue, well, it just simply comes from experience from all of us, experiencing something in life, and going, well, I didn't really like that, so can we please make a rule about that? But, you know, but then, like I say, it's the discussion of, well, where does that idea of saying, I don't like that, so maybe that shouldn't be a thing come from. You know.
There's also the cultural influence. If your culture says that, let's say, hating women is good, then you might be instilled to think that. It might be hard to go against that.
But there are people that have that natural proclivity to suddenly just go, actually, I don't think that's right. And maybe that does come from a Holocaust, or maybe it just comes from them meeting women and hearing their opinion going, actually, they're a really nice person. I don't hate them. Why should we hate anyone? It's that thing of, I don't think there's a 100% answer, but then again, the question is, do we need an answer? Or is it just good that people come to good values? Like, it's the question of, is it about the journey, or is it just where they come to?
No, I believe people can have good values, but from my perspective, what I would say is that you have those convictions because we believe that, you know, you've been created in the image of God. You know right from wrong, because the Bible would say that you know, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So essentially everything comes from God, and it talks about how wisdom and knowledge all comes from Him. So ultimately, so I could be able to, so I would say that, you know, I could be able to justify, not because I know things, but because God has revealed it to us, if that makes sense. So like, so ultimately, you know, and when it talks about, you know, whether, when we look at the existence of God, you know, we could look at, we would say we can, that, to be fair, the Bible would say that God has actually revealed Himself already through creation, because, you know, for example, we don't need to see the builder of a building to know that that's been built, right? We know that it's been built because we see the building, if that makes sense. And it's almost exactly the same with Christianity, where God says that He has revealed Himself, and He has revealed Himself through creation and His handiwork, and the reason why actually the Bible talks so much about about His revelation is that He wants people to come to Him, and in that sense, it basically means that, as you were saying, there's many different religions today, and everybody has a belief system. You may not call it religion, but atheism essentially is still a belief system.
Of course.
And we have to, and we are given information, we all interpret it differently, and it all comes down to, you know, what's right and, well, what's true, basically. So one of the questions that Pilate in the Bible asked Jesus is, what is truth? And truth is basically what we have to come down to. Like, if I had to ask you, you know, would you sell your eyes for £1 million?
Probably not.
You wouldn't. And the reason why I believe you wouldn't is because it's precious to you, right? It's valuable, and I believe that your eyes are essentially a window to your soul. So, you know, the Bible even talks about, you know, what is it to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul? Because the Bible even talks about, you know, when a man dies once, then comes judgment. And the reason we're out here is just to, you know, explain why Jesus Christ had to die and the reason why he had to. I don't know if you come across the story about Jesus Christ.
No.
Yeah. So you've got.
I did used to be responsible.
We both have a Christian background.
Yeah.
And also outside of it, just because I don't believe in religion, I do study it.
Yeah.
I do find that there is greater knowledge to be gained from it, especially with morality.
Yeah.
Like I said, my personal things are that just because I don't believe about, loving one another, doing kind things just for the sake of kindness, and turning the other cheek, not turning to hostility just because someone angered you.
Yeah.
And
very great.
And I very much can believe what you're talking about. This idea of.
Well, this is it, because like and Halloween. That's why we've been going over that, because life and death. It's the elephant in the room. Nobody really talks about
life
it,
and death is intertwined.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't have life without death.
Yeah.
Without death, there really isn't no life. There's a quote from a book called Tale from Earthsea that I love. It's such a beautiful book. It's a book that's a story about a young man basically having to come with grips to the fact that he has that awakening of he realises I am going to die someday.
Yeah.
And he travels this entire magical world trying to find a cure for death, a way to live forever. And he meets this amazing wizard called Sparrowhawk.
Yeah.
And there's a bit in the book where the lad's been corrupted by an evil wizard that just wants to use him to gain immortality, basically taking other people's souls. And there's a moment where he goes to try and kill Sparrowhawk, the kind wizard that's been guiding him all this time. And as he goes to kill him, he just embraces him. And in his dying breath, he whispers to him, "Listen to me. Life is precious, yes, but no life is meant to last for eternity."
Yeah.
The God, the being who created us, we are his favourite creation, so he gave us the gift of knowledge so we may know that we must die.
Yeah.
Death, as well as, life is our greatest burden, but it's also our greatest treasure, and, no one can change that.
Yeah.
And he said a nice analogy at the end, which is that Aaron, which is the lad's name, the boy, would you completely stop the sea just to save one footprint in the sand? There's a natural order to things, and that order is beautiful.
Yeah.
The fact that we die someday doesn't mean that life has no meaning. It gives it even more meaning.
It gives it so much more meaning, and so much more value.
Don't we cherish a book even more because we know one day it must come to an end?
Yeah.
We can relive it through memory. We can look back at it, but when it's said and done, it's said and done. So and I very much subscribe to that. To the feeling that life and death are intertwined, and don't deny death, because once again to quote, to deny death is to deny life.
Yeah.
So
Would you consider to be a good person? Would you consider yourselves to be?
I would say, from my personal perspective, yes.
Yeah.
But like I said, everyone has their own purview.
Yeah.
I'm always very self-aware that what I know to be that I'm a good person. I give to charity, I help people out, I do good things.
Yeah.
One person's bad interaction with me can make me the devil incarnate.
Exactly.
I have exes that would swear that I am the devil himself, just because they did bad things to me and I did bad things to them. I'm ashamed of those things and I apologise, but they still see me as the bad person, which is fair. They're allowed to do that. So
would you say?
I would basically say the same thing. I see myself as a good person. I try to go out of my way to help people and do nice things. But again, if somebody saw me look at them weird, they thought I looked at them funny, but so then, that person's mean, that person's rude.
If you want our opinion on it, I'd say we're good people.
Can I put it to the test according to the Ten Commandments? We'll be quick.
If you'd like to, go ahead. Go ahead. This will be interesting.
Have you ever told a lie?
I'd say everybody's told a lie.
I admit, yes.
Especially
if I may
kids.
explain why I've told lies. I have never willingly told a lie to deceive someone for my own gain. The only time I've ever told a lie is when I feel that telling them the truth would do more harm than good. There's been times in my life where someone has asked me, did so on and so forth do this?
Yeah.
And I've answered honestly, I said, yes, they did. But I guess the lie is my incompliance to tell them, because I feel that telling them, going about spreading all the laundry, airing everyone's laundry out, is kind of just going around making things worse. So I'll admit I have told a lie, but it's just been more in a case of I feel that I've told those lies in a sense to try and keep the peace. And a lot of it has less been me telling a direct lie, lying, saying a falsehood, and more just not saying anything at all. But like I said, we can count that as a lie. And I agree, that's terrible on me, and I feel that I always try to be truthful. So that's my admittance there.
And
not doing
I'd say a lot. a lot of us, if not everybody, lies, especially as kids.
Absolutely.
Like for instance, to get out of trouble.
Who hasn't lied?
My brother did it, not me. I didn't do it. You know, things like that. But again, as we get older, we start to learn the consequences of lies. So if we do lie, we lie, for example, to not hurt somebody's feelings. Like if somebody, for example, says, do you think this is a really ugly color on me? But you know, if you say yes, that it's going to really mess them up. It looks great, you know, things like that.
What would you call someone who tells lies? Rhymes with fire.
A liar.
Yeah. Have you ever stolen anything regardless of its value?
Absolutely not.
Downloaded music on the internet that's not yours?
No, I can't say that.
we don't. I love to support bands. I love bands. I'm a big music junkie.
Maybe a pencil in school?
No, I wouldn't even say that. No. The only time you can really say that I've stolen something is I borrowed a eraser from someone. Yeah. And as I was undoing my work in class, the bell rang. So I just quickly packed up my thing. I packed my thing into there. I returned it and I felt bad, but that's the only thing I can really say is I accidentally stole an eraser.
Have you ever used God's name in vain, like OMGOD? Maybe you stopped.
I will say I am guilty of this.
Yeah, me too, personally.
I am guilty of this, and I do apologise. Whenever I've said it, I am always careful to make sure that I have respect for other people's religions. I try not to offend people by say God's name in vain. So I would never say his name in vain in front of you because I respect your beliefs and I don't want to anger you. Because you're a good person. You know, I try to push that forward. So I am guilty of that. So feel free.
I was really bad about it when I was a kid. Yeah. I admit. Oh, it was so embarrassing. I was obviously grew up with a religious family. I was in church. I don't remember what happened, but I said OMG, and my mom was like, "Why would you say that?" So I've definitely
we've made that sin, but we are taking a step to improve ourselves.
Definitely guilty of that one.
Because that one is it's called. I don't know if you've come across the term blasphemy.
We know what blasphemy is.
So it's when we use. It's basically using God's name in vain.
Yeah, God's name in vain, or saying things against him. And basically going against God and saying things that just aren't nice to say.
That's right. And have you ever, last one, have you ever looked at someone with lust?
The only person I've ever looked at with lust is my wife.
We're married, so.
That is the only person I've ever looked at with lust in my heart.
Is that before marriage or after marriage?
Obviously you have thoughts, you look at your wife and you think about the future, but I've always been very careful to keep my thoughts respectful.
He's always been extreme. We've always been very respectful.
I guess lust doesn't count if it's in marriage, right? So,
it's like I said, it does say marriage is alright as long as you
together,
But like I say, when it comes to going about, like say, because I had other partners beforehand, when it comes to dates and stuff like that, I always tried to keep my thoughts clean. We're going on a nice day, we might cuddle, we might hold hands, but I never expected or thought that the end result would be a lustful interaction. Just because I personally feel that's just not a way to go about it, because when I get into a relationship with someone, I'm not there for a hookup. I don't believe in hookup culture. I think it's toxic.
I think it's disgusting.
I believe in, if you're going to do that with someone, it should be, as I've said, I might get, some, a bit romantical, all this or that, but I feel that, that kind of interaction, that, having sex, it's a binding of souls, it's a unionship, it's an expression of you being one. And it should be out of love, it shouldn't be out of love. So, to simply answer your question, no, I've only had lustful thoughts and feelings and all that with my wife right here.
And I've only had one other partner before him, and we never did anything, and she was a girl.
And we do wear wedding rings, by the way, we just wear them because I don't identify more.
Can't wear them with the costume.
Would you say you've, so in that scenario, you've never had any sexual relationship outside of marriage?
No. Neither of us have. I personally don't like sexual things. So even with the partner I had before, we both agreed we don't like that stuff.
Yeah, maybe not looked at any, there's pornographic videos.
I'll say the most I've looked at is the bikini pictures that pop up on the internet. Being young and curious, you look at a photo of a woman in a bikini, but that's the most. Like I said, I personally, once again, because of my opinions on it, I find pornography to be, like I said, if you watch it, no shame on you, you do you, good for you. I personally don't consume that media just because I feel that it's media that I don't need to consume. My wife
I personally think it's gross. I don't like that kind of stuff, but I don't think, because there have been people talking about banning it. I don't necessarily think it should be banned because it is kind of like a freedom of expression, freedom of speech, whatever. I think it's gross and it should be kept, behind closed doors for no kids should view it, things like that, of course.
We're very big advocates of freedom of thought and freedom of speech. We think those are two of the most
But that doesn't
essential
mean you're free from judgment just because you have the freedom to express that. Like, we get judged for these costumes, but we have the freedom and right to wear them. And we accept that.
So would you say in that commandment alone, would you say you could say with free conscience that you've never looked at another girl or woman with lust?
No, I mean,
absolutely not.
I can say no because, like I said, I was personally raised by my mother. So I was very much taught to respect women and that women are people. And that if you won't look at a bloke that way, you shouldn't look at a woman that way. So I can say, and like I said, whether you want to believe me or not, that's fair. Like I said, once again, your truth.
So
my truth is that I haven't done that out of my raising.
So out of your own admission, I haven't judged you.
No, that's perfectly fine. No, but in all honesty, just for the record, you're free to judge us. I don't mind if you go away here and go, oh, those are a bunch of weird.
You have the right to judge us.
You know, I personally think you're a lovely individual, and I'm enjoying this conversation.
We've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. So, sorry, I never got you. No, I can't get you.
You can't get our names.
We can give it afterwards and give the
This is Michael. I'm Ghostface.
We'll give names afterwards and we'll give niceties.
And what's that guy's name? Mike Myers, isn't it? Mike Myers, that's it. Yeah. So I'll call you Michael then.
Michael, just for
you're Ghosty. So out of your own admission, Michael and Ghosty, I haven't judged you, but you said that you're a lying and blasphemous at heart, right?
Yes,
so
I can admit to that.
Yeah.
So if you had to be judged according to those commandments, would you say you'd be innocent or guilty?
I would say that when it comes to the commandment, I feel that the argument can be made that yes, I've taken the Lord's name in vain, and yes, I have told or withheld information which can be equated to lying from a point of view, which is fair. My only argument would be that yes, I did those, I've sinned in those ways, but when it comes to the greater sins such as some of the ones you mentioned, such as murder, stealing, stuff like that, I feel I haven't committed those, and also I feel that I would bring up the fact that I do charity work. I raise money for charity.
We love to do things for this community.
I've taken my last few pounds out of my pocket and I've bought food for someone who was homeless in this town.
Have you ever hated someone? Have you ever hated someone?
I've had negative feelings towards someone, but I've instantly let it go because I feel that hanging on to hate for someone, and it's never been unprovoked, it's always been someone has hurt me severely. But I feel hanging on to hate, anger in that way, I personally feel that all that's going to do is that affects you. Hating them doesn't do anything to them, they don't care. But hating them just brings darkness into your own heart, your own soul, if you will. And there's no need to. So I very much subscribe to, you have your moment of anger, but then you let it go. You move on and accept that they did something wrong, they'll get their, I'm sure they'll get their karma in the end. And you move on with life. Because that's what you need to do for yourself. There's no point in going on hate because you can look at anyone who has ever had vengeance in their heart or hatred. It just ruins them, it makes them to a better person. It's not
and
good.
all it does is hurt you and weigh on you, and if you really don't like them, they're not worth all that pain. And I know this from experience because I have hated somebody. I've hated my own father for a very long time, but as I've gotten older, yes, he's a very horrible person, but I've learned that the more I think about it, the more it weighs on me. He's not worth that. He's getting what he wants by doing that, so he's not worth it. I've just got to let it go.
So sorry to hear that. And, those experiences are certainly even becoming a norm nowadays as well.
Unfortunately, the world's going crazy.
So based upon that question, whether you'd be guilty, so you say you would be guilty, or
sorry, which question?
When I mentioned whether you'd be guilty or innocent based upon the two commands,
basically, I would say that in some sense you can say that I'm guilty of two of those sins. But like I said, I would just make the argument that yes, I'm guilty of those two sins, but when it comes to the greater sins, I've not committed them. And also that I've done great good, though I may not be a believer, in a way you could say that I have done the Lord's work by caring for people, by giving up my last little bit, my last bit of material value for someone else, giving up my last monetary value so someone else can eat and be warm. So that's the only argument I would make is yes, I may not be a believer and I may not have, followed you to the book, but I feel that I've never willingly hurt anyone and I've always strived to do good and be a good influence and try and do good work. That would be my argument, and if I'm done for it, that's fair, that's his right.
He's just a mushy teddy bear. He's never done anything. But for myself, if God is feeling pretty lenient that day, I might be okay. If he's feeling like, if he's a bit strict that day, hold me to it, I might be damned.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you know, actually before I even go into that, so let's just say you had to be guilty based upon those 2 commandments, because the Bible even says that if you've broken one commandment, it's like you've broken all.
Yeah, you've broken all.
Right.
Which,
Well, in that case, I'm guilty.
in that case, I'm guilty. I apologise.
And no, you don't have to apologise.
No, but I'm saying in the case of I would apologise. I'm sorry. I tried to do my best, and it wasn't enough. I accept myself.
And if you had to die today, literally you just drop dead, your heart just stopped pumping. And I know you mentioned you don't believe in the world. You don't believe, you know, in the Bible. However, if I know you mentioned you claim that you could be wrong about everything you claim to know. So let's just say you died, and in that moment you were wrong, and you had to be judged according to God's commandments. Would you say you end up in heaven or hell according to the commandments that we've gone through?
I would have to definitely say that it depends on how you view God. Is he kind of going to look and go, listen, you broke a few rules, but you did live a life of, of charity, of helping people, and doing good and caring for others and putting others before yourself. I feel like that would be the leg I'd have to stand on, is that I've done good by other people. I myself have, I've blasphemy or sworn, but so I feel it depends. If he's a lenient God that is forgiving and understands, listen, you did some stuff that I'm not okay with, but all in all, you're a pretty sound person. You did good in your life, though it wasn't by my name. It was still by my influence in a way. If that's what you're going by, it was by my influence, and you still did my work. So I'll let you in. But if it's a God that's like, no, if you've broken one, you've broken all. I've got to do this. I've got to set an example. No one can break all these. Then.
Exactly.
I probably would go to hell. And like I said, I think that then plays into the fact that we talked about everyone's truth. Some people's truth is that, he's crying and will forgive you and be okay. Some people feel that, no, you need to be strict, you need to be steadfast. So
there are some people that think if you just say sorry, he'll forgive you immediately. So it just depends. It depends on which version of God you're
depending on which you believe in and what your truth is, I may be a sinner that's going to burn in hell, or maybe someone that... Or maybe someone who's going to be forgiven for the things I did do wrong, for the fact that I did great things in that stead. But I guess you could say absolve me of those sins, and then go on. So, but either way, if I am wrong, if I was to drop dead right now and I did go to meet the Almighty, and he said to me, hey, listen, I get it, you did nice things, but you broke these 2 rules. I've got to treat everyone the same. I would say, I accept that, Lord.
Well, the standard in the Bible is so high, so God actually says, you must be perfect because I am perfect. And it's like, whoa, like, no one is perfect, right? So even Romans 3:10 talks about how no one is righteous, not even one person. Everybody has sinned against God, right?
So even my very Christian grandmother, she's not perfect.
And also, let's be honest, that is what made Jesus clearly the Son of God and so special, because he was so perfect. But even he was prone to anger, when he saw what they did to obviously the house of God with the merchants and all that. That angered him.
It did. Well, anger isn't essentially...
But it's not innately bad, is it? But that's what I mean, it's how you express that anger. Do you know what I mean? You can say that within that, it is the extent you take your misgivings to. You're allowed to get angry, but don't go hurting people just because you're upset. Do you know what I mean? So, but and I guess there we can say, so, I'm not going to say, because that is blasphemy to say that I'm the same as Jesus, and I wouldn't dare say it with all respect for his word.
So if you did go to hell now, would that concern you, knowing that, as you said, you could be wrong about everything you claim to know?
As long as we're together, I'm happy.
But like the description of
hell,
but
obviously the description of hell is top terrible. I'm very much a person that believes that, you dig your own grave, you lay your own, you create your own bed, now you must lay in it. If your actions in life lead you to punishment in life, you have to accept that punishment. If your actions in life then lead to a punishment in death, you've got to accept it. That's just my feelings on it. It's not nice. I don't like the idea of going to hell, but I accept that I put myself here. Here to all eternity.
But you wouldn't sell we wouldn't sell our eyes for
of course.
because it's valuable.
But at the same time, we don't necessarily like the idea of living our entire lives in fear of going to hell, because that's not a very nice thought.
And also you can
it would be concerning, right, to anyone. If somebody says, look, I'm gonna catch you today, I'm going to make sure I put your hands in the boiling hot water for 10 seconds.
Of course.
So that thought of that person telling you that he's going to do this is concerning, right? And the thing is as well, like at the same time, the reason why it's an important matter is because like 100,000 people die every single day, right?
Exactly.
10 out of 10 people die. 10 out of 10 people will die, right? And some of those people had holidays booked next year.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's such a, you know, for example, I had an individual who recently died, and you know, he was fully fit, there was nothing wrong with him, and as you were saying, even I could end up home in a car accident and that's it, my life is gone. So
I've had the same experience. I've had friends that last night I was talking to, and then next I find out that they've committed suicide and accidents happen. And it's
so sorry to hear.
But like we've said, that's how life and death is intertwined. Death is always around the corner. So
you never know when it's going to happen.
And so do you know what Jesus done so you wouldn't have to go to a place called hell?
Oh yeah.
That's right. So, and I think that's why that message is such is the core of Christianity, because you've got 2,000 years ago, you have Jesus Christ, who lived the perfect life on this earth, and he never sinned, and he willingly went to the cross, he died on the cross, and then he rose again on the third day to defeat death, and said it is finished. And the moment that and the moment we put our trust in him, and turn away from our sin, he promises that he will give us eternal life. So think about this, Richard, Michael. Right?
No, that's fine.
So the legal implication would be, let's just say, Michael, you're heading to prison without parole, and you've committed a crime, and then basically what happens is, the judge actually decides to step down and says, you know what, Michael, I'm going to pay for your fine. Now your fine's been paid, the judge can actually legally dismiss your case. And you know, ultimately, your expression of love towards that individual, you just want to do good for that person. So as a Christian myself, I do good things, not because I'm doing good things to get to heaven. I'm doing good things because I already have the lollipop, right? It's an expression of gratitude. It's an expression of thankfulness.
And I feel that's the way it should be. I feel there's a few too many Christians that feel that it's brownie points, that, oh, if I do this one thing, that's one more point. That's not how you should feel it.
For the favor of whatever church they follow. I think that's the ultimate way you should be doing it.
Because you've been shown this morality, this light, this is the true way of being. It's all thankfulness. You do it in his name. You don't do it in your own name. That's what doing it because you want to go to heaven. If you do it in your own name,
and that's literally our hope for everyone, because at the end of the day, I understand that you have your views and I have my views, but ultimately it would be unloving for me not to share this with you. It's almost like, because I believe the message that we have essentially is like a cure to cancer. And if I was a doctor and had a cure to cancer and then I didn't go and share it, it would be unloving for me to do that, right? Of course. So ultimately, and that's why I believe this message is a message that everybody ought to hear, because if you put Christianity in the middle and all other religions around it, what the other religions would say is that you have to do good things to overcome your bad deeds. But just think about a courtroom scenario. If I was in a courtroom and I told the judge, you know what, judge, I gave £10,000 5 years ago to a person who was really suffering, the judge will turn around and say, look, I understand the things that you did 5 years ago, but you've committed this crime, and this crime has to be dealt with, right? So essentially, someone has to be responsible for the sins that has been committed. Either we take responsibility, where God has to justly punish that in eternity in hell, and doesn't want to. He says that I do not wish anyone to perish, and that's why he had to send his only son, and he had to crush his son, who was the God-man. And the moment that we put our trust in him, he says that he will give us eternal life. I don't know if that makes sense.
No. I do know the scripture. So
so that's our hope. That's my hope, is that everybody come to Christ, because it's a free gift.
Exactly.
And the fact, like regardless of what my beliefs are, which I say that now, but start a sense with my beliefs. I believe the fact that you are doing that of the kindness of your heart because you believe that is people's salvation, that is what will save people. Even though I don't believe, even though I may not believe in it or believe that you have all the answers, in my heart, I can say good on you, because you're going away, you're doing it, you could be on the sofa watching TV
right now.
right
Be
now.
very righteous of you.
But you're out here trying to help people, live a more moral life, and to hopefully, you know, get their reward in paradise. And for that, I say that you're a good bloke, and good on you, and keep doing what you're doing.
It's,
I mean, just because I don't, you know, subscribe to what you subscribe to, doesn't mean that I don't see the value, and that shouldn't be the case. Just because we disagree on something doesn't mean there aren't things that we do agree on. I agree on that you should have your fellow man. You should try and put the message out there that there are people that want to help, and there is a way of, you know, seeking that redemption, that salvation, that way of starting over anew and being a better person. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, as it said, we're reborn every day. We can be a new person every day. Just wake up to and decide I'm not going to be that person I was tomorrow. The fact you're out there spreading that message is amazing. So bless you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
If I can give you, this is the book of John. It's a small book of John, the Gospel of John. It's just about the life of Christ. If you want to, you know, if you read it a couple minutes a day.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Thank you so much for your time.
No, seriously, thank you. Can I give you a hug?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, man. Seriously, you're a good bloke, and seriously, keep doing what you're doing.
Forget my chin is so long.
You're a good bloke.
Thank you so
guys,
much.
and have fun, and
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Just can I ask a quick question before you guys go?
Go on. What's up?
I was just going to ask, is there like in regards to this conversation, was there any insights or anything that made you think or change your mind, or maybe you're going to go home and think about certain things? Or
I would definitely say that hasn't changed my belief system, but it definitely has changed my view on.
You change your belief system?
You know, it hasn't changed my belief system. But what I'm saying that what it has done is it has changed my view somewhat on certain people within religion. Because we personally have had bad experiences with people, and like I said, I like to believe that each person is an individual. So that's just individual. So
I think you guys are probably
it's nice to see that there are people out here. In my opinion, you guys are the real ones.
Yes, this is what real Christianity is about. Too many fake Christians that do it for brownie points. They do it to get ahead in their church or get some kind of social status or standing. So this is absolutely refreshing to see.
Like, you know,
and the one thing that you said that I'm going to take with me and think about is how you said that you're doing this not, you know, to gain anything, but to help people. Like you said, you have the cure to cancer. I really liked that. That was very beautiful.
Yeah, exactly like what he Godfrey said is is the cure to cancer. That's generally what we're doing.
That's awesome.
It's pretty much as a child. If a child is in the house and there's fire in the house, we're essentially, whether people don't believe in it, but we're essentially telling them to get out in a lovingly way.
Of course.
And the way you're going about it is great.
Like, you're not standing there telling, like, you didn't stand there yelling at me going, no, you're wrong, and because you're wrong, you're going to burn. You had a
too many people do that.
You explained your view, and even if I disagreed, or you felt maybe I didn't get your point, you didn't stand there and go, oh, you're just not getting it. You kindly talked to me, and that already has changed my view on it, and personally has made me see you too, as not to say I had a bad view of you before, but it makes me look at you too and go, do you want your true Christian?
The model Christian.